Story 1. She said she stopped talking to him. Years later, she told me that I needed to see a counselor if it kept bothering me, because she had not talked to him in years, and my paranoia was a major issue in our relationship. Spoiler alert. She never stopped talking to him and gaslight me into thinking it was all in my head. Story 2. He would gaslight her and act inappropriately, considering he had a girlfriend and she was with me. She eventually realized that he is a snake and has massive issues around seeking attention from women for validation. She cut him out completely. Just yesterday, I saw that his girlfriend kicked him out of the house. Douchebag equals 0. Me equals 1. Story 3. I told her that it feels like he is just waiting for us to break up, so he can ask her out. She said I am being dramatic. We broke up. He asked her out within a few weeks. Sucks to be right in this context. Story 4. He became a dance instructor. He's always surrounded by women now, teaching salsa and tango at a popular studio downtown. Whenever I pass by, I see him effortlessly twirling his students, always with a flirty smile and a wink. It's almost comical how he's found a way to make flirting his full-time job. Story 5. Less than a week after we broke up, she got with the coworker she told me not to worry about. She came back telling me how horrible it was and said it made her realize how much she missed me and she only did it because she felt alone. It's been 9 months and I haven't looked back. I know she technically didn't cheat on me as we were broken up, but we were together for almost 2 years and it seems kind of quick to move on. She tried to justify her actions by saying her friends encouraged her to have fun and she's always looking for someone because she can't be alone. Her inability to be alone and work on herself without jumping to the next relationship without a second thought is what majorly turned me off from her. Sometimes I wish things were different, but I know I have enough self-respect not to take her back and to do better. Story 6. He was a great guy and a very good friend, and his partner he eventually met is awesome. He was a great person to hang out with. I'm no longer dating her, but still occasionally talk to him. Story 7. Turns out I didn't have to worry about him, because he wasn't into women. That being said, he made a flirty comment to me once, and it weirded my then girlfriend enough to make her ghost him. 7 years of friendship between those two. Gone because he commented on my boots making my legs look good. Story 8. He showed up to their just as friends dinner with flowers and asked her out. She came back embarrassed and said the friendship was over. She and I have been married a long time now. Story 9. He got her pregnant within a month of us breaking up and gave her herpes. Now they are divorced and fight and bicker constantly. I remember that phone call when she called to let me know she had herpes and that I should get checked. I smugly said, I don't need to. I've only ever slept with one other person. Then I went on to a year-long deployment in Iraq, returned, and dated you for a year. Unless you were sleeping around on me, which I know you weren't, then I don't need to. Her silence was hilarious. It got her to admit she slept around on me. Story 10. She broke up with me. A week later, she was with him. 6 months later, she came back from work to an empty apartment. He sold all her belongings and stole a significant amount of her money. I actually struggled not to laugh on the phone when she told me this. Story 11. She married him, had 2 kids, and they were a happy family until his gambling got the best of him. He lost his job, both became miserable, and now they are apparently headed for divorce. He apparently got sick, became depressed, and is on a bad path. Too bad. They were great together and we hung out several times. Story 12. Not long after she told me not to worry about him, she began accusing me of cheating whenever I wasn't answering the phone. It drove me nuts, so I broke up with her. And what do you know, she was seeing the guy. Story 13. He was a longtime friend. He was always interested and had occasionally suggested they get back together. Even though nothing was ever established, by putting her in misleading and awkward situations to guilt trip her. Examples include invitations to public dance classes that turned out to be private tango lessons, a simple meal out that turned into reservations at a high-end restaurant, and threats of discarding expensive jewelry he offered her if she didn't accept them. When she and I got together initially, the first thing he did was break off his own engagement, thinking there was a chance for us to break up. She and I dated for a few years and they stayed friends. I finally proposed, and he went to her parents crying about it. He eventually found another woman and married her. We even got invited to the wedding, and has since dropped all contact. Story 14. He's in another United States state, married with 2 kids, and is a great guy. They have been close friends for decades but never dated. They still talk on the phone openly twice a year, and I sincerely look forward to our get-togethers. Solid dude all around. I could trust him with my children's lives. Story 15. She divorced me for him and he divorced his wife for her. They became cocaine addicts and broke up a year later. I would feel bad for them, but why would I? Story 16. She left me for him. She called me around a year ago, drunk and blubbering about some noise but wouldn't say what, and I couldn't be bothered to dig further. I looked her up on Facebook one evening out of boredom. Turns out he transitioned into a she. Story 17. She left me for him. She waited to graduate from school first, broke it off with me, and was already celebrating an anniversary with him before we were done. I think, but I'm not sure. Overall, I think it worked out really well for them. They got married and have a kid. It seems like she made the right choice, but it really destroyed me for a long time and probably still affects me to this day. I used to be really angry about it, but given the results, I can't stay mad about it. Plus, people change and that's not a problem, but still, be honest with people and don't cheat. It's pretty terrible. Story 18. She had an affair, asked for an open marriage, and when I wouldn't agree to that, she asked for a divorce. She got the divorce. But, surprise, surprise, things didn't work out between them, and she spent almost a decade running between men trying to find the one, after leaving me for her fling. Story 19. Different girls, mostly. There's always that guy. One came out as gay years later. Nothing happened before that, though. She went away for a weekend with a girlfriend of hers. The guy she said not to worry about just happened to be there, at the same house with all her college friends. She at least had the decency to break up with me when she got back before her friends told me what actually happened. She made out with the guy at a party, but he totally initiated it, and what was she supposed to do? Say no? Stop it? That would be absurd, right? This one was one of those we were on a break situations, but she left the club we both happened to be at to go see his car. I ended up giving her a lift home. I didn't enjoy that. During a relationship that had what was supposed to be a temporary long-distance portion, the guy showed up at the airport to surprise my girlfriend with roses when I went to go fetch her. They got married. She made out with the dude in her bedroom while I was in the lounge. They hadn't finished making out by the time I walked in on them. She married him. I've been single for a while now. Story 20. She keeps saying things like, "Oh, he is not a threat," and stop spending so much energy worrying about him. And Jeff, that is your reflection. It's just a mirror. Please come out of the bathroom. What are you doing? But I don't know. I just don't trust him. Story 21. She kept hiding the fact she was seeing him in private without my knowledge after we had a discussion about it like adults. I didn't feel comfortable. I saw a text message while she was driving, and it showed up on her notifications on the screen. I was in the passenger seat. We got into a heated argument, and our relationship was on and off. I was an emotional dunce when it came to romantic feelings and was in a toxic situation. I realized I was just an option for her and would always be second best. The feeling was terrible. It took 2 years to recover my emotional trauma and mental state. That was 5 years ago. Now I'm happily married. My advice, whether you are a man, woman, or other, is to take your time dealing with your emotions and trauma. A relationship won't make you happy and should not be the excuse for why. It's nice, feels nice, and everyone wants it in some shape or form, but your happiness is how you create it. Be yourself and be happy. Thank you for reading my rant. Story 22. I brought up the fact that he is gay. I thought everyone knew. It was just obvious to me. She thought that I was just insecure about their friendship and assured me that they were just friends. She would not hear anything from me about the fact that I was not jealous. I just genuinely thought that he was gay. He married another guy long after she and I broke up. Story 23. He is still one of my wife's best friends, and now one of mine too. He was in our wedding. I have no reason to think anything bad is happening. I know it's not interesting, but sometimes exes really do stay just friends. Story 24. She went on a 3-day camping trip with him and was radio silent from me. We broke up as soon as she came back to town. He beat her regularly. I'm glad she eventually got rid of him. Story 25. She left me for him because she could not contain her love for him anymore. He slept with her a few times, then dropped her. She spiraled into drugs, sex addiction, and an eating disorder. Story 26. She was intimate with him in the back of one of the zoo transport vans, using the shared work vibrator, her rampant rabbit, which, I guess, given the industry we all worked in, was the most appropriate of toys. Eventually, I found out she immediately ended things with me. She told him they were now exclusive. And he immediately ended things with her as he had no interest in a relationship and just enjoyed the thrill of being with someone else's girlfriend. He went back to his homeland and continued in the industry. She sent messages asking for us to meet and talk, which I ignored. She fell into a huge depression and attempted suicide. How sad. Story 27. I used to date this girl. She had a best friend, a huge nerd, not her type. I wasn't worried at all. They knew each other since middle school. I got to know him and we became friends. Fast forward almost 5 years later, she broke up with me. She had an affair and left me for him, but that's a different story. Most of the friends I got to know through her never even tried to reach out to me, but he did. We met and talked, and after a few beers, he told me how a year before, while I was on a family holiday in Egypt, she drunkenly tried to sleep with him, but he turned her down. I fully believe him, mostly because he cannot lie well. So, yeah, he turned out to be a better human being than she was. Story 28. She never told me not to worry about anyone in particular, but I was shocked by how many guy friends my wife had when we first started dating, who were obviously hoping it would turn into something more. She would introduce us. Me as her boyfriend, them as a good friend, and I could see the look in their eyes like, who is this dude? I thought I was going to be the one. Story 29. She said he reminds her of her father and that he's acting pathetic and desperate for her. She said that he gives her gifts for no reason and that it's awkward. She claimed he creeps her out and sometimes scares her, that he has his friends and a brother stalking her. He acted out plenty of times. One of the instances was when he and his friends with criminal records barged into her flat and started making a big fuss about why she's not into him. The police were called. He claimed that if he cannot have her, then no man ever will. Despite many of his childish, weird, or outright reportable acts, she continued being friends with him. She claimed I was the only normal person in her life at some point. All that happened in the span of 2 months or less earlier this year. Now I suspect that he moved in with her. Either she loves toxic relationships, or I don't understand women at all. Story 30. She promised he was just a friend. Since he lives in the United Kingdom and we are in the United States, there is nothing to be worried about. Surprised face when she breaks up with me, then moves to a different country to be with him. Last I heard, they only dated for a year or two. Then she got fired from her remote job, broke up with him, and is now living with her parents back in the United States. All of this after she would not move 2 states away to live with me. Dodged a bullet there. Story 31. An old friend of hers came back into her life, and after some talks and multiple, we're just friends. We ended up breaking up. We tried doing the whole friends with benefits thing for a bit. But after making the huge mistake of asking if the other guy was bigger than me, to which she answered honestly and in what was probably too much detail, I decided that it just wasn't going to work out. They got into a relationship and I blocked her on Facebook. Years later, I see the guy working at Dave & Buster's. Being friendly, I ask, "How's it going?" To which he responded with, "Well, not good." I apologized, saying that sucks, and then walked away. Every now and again, I'll think about her. But upon deeper reflection, I realized we were obviously going on 2 separate paths at that point in life. And although it hurt at the time, it was definitely for the best. Story 32. Turns out he had a big heart, high salary, nice car, hobbies, interests, and education, positive attitude, a charming, outgoing personality, and was healthy, vigorous, tall, and classically handsome. Other than that, I'm not sure what she saw in him. Story 33. You mean his buddy's girlfriend that he said was just a friend? Yeah, they are married now. But last I heard, he was largely left out of a threesome with his wife and another woman at a Renaissance fair, so that's funny. Or my ex-husband who told me not to worry, he just fell asleep on my coworker's couch after walking her home on New Year's. He impregnated her, and they are married now. The child was premature with a bunch of health issues, and it has visibly aged them both. Or an ex-friend who was a bit too friendly with my boyfriend, and I was made out to be crazy for being jealous. They are married now. I honestly wish them happiness, as I think they are well suited to each other, and I don't mean that in a negative way either. Needless to say, I have very few people I trust, and the second I'm told not to worry about someone, I most definitely become hypervigilant about that person and the person telling me not to worry.